Most people think intimacy is built on honesty, openness, and emotional closeness. Welcome to Emotional Shadow, but beneath the surface of every relationship runs a hidden network of unspoken signals, codes that partners use, often unconsciously, to gain emotional advantage, protect themselves, or influence the direction of the relationship. Not the romantic gestures we celebrate, or the communication tips we learn in therapy sessions. They are subtle maneuvers, psychological shortcuts, and deeply ingrained patterns that can bring people closer, or slowly pull them apart without either of them realizing what's happening. And once you start seeing these codes, you also start seeing the truth. Relationships don't rise or fall because of the big moments, love confessions, arguments. Commitments, they rise and fall because of the invisible, coded communication happening in the background. To understand how these secret intimacy codes formed, we have to go back to early psychological theories that challenged the idea of love as a purely emotional experience. Sigmund Freud suggested that much of our relational behavior comes from unconscious motives. Later, John Bowlby, the pioneer of attachment theory, revealed that people develop predictable patterns and how they bond patterns that quietly shape every romantic connection they build. These discoveries were shocking at the time because they exposed a reality that most people still struggle to accept. We don't always communicate what we mean, and we don't always mean what we communicate. These principles form the backbone of modern relationship science, yet most couples remain unaware that their words and actions are guided by codes created long before they ever met each other. The origins of intimacy codes can be traced back to childhood, when a person first learns what works to gain attention, affection, or safety. Some children learn that staying quiet keeps the peace. Others learn that speaking loudly gets them noticed. Some use humor to avoid conflict. Others use withdrawal to gain control. These habits later resurface in adult relationships as unspoken emotional strategies. Over time, these strategies evolve into codes, predictable patterns that partners use to navigate closeness, distance, vulnerability, and power. By the time people enter serious relationships, these codes are already wired into their emotional instincts, ready to activate whenever intimacy feels too strong, too weak, or too risky. The rise of these intimacy codes inside a relationship usually begins subtly. A partner gives shorter answers when they want emotional distance, hoping the other person will take the hint. Another partner uses exaggerated warmth when they want reassurance without directly asking for it. Someone might delay texts to gain the upper hand, or speak in overly patient tones to express irritation without starting an argument. These behaviors appear harmless on the surface, but they create a silent language where very little is said outright, and everything is interpreted. Gradually, partners stop communicating their true feelings and begin communicating through signals that only make sense when you understand the code behind them. As these patterns continue, small fractures begin forming beneath the surface. One partner becomes the pursuer, constantly trying to decode emotional shifts, while the other becomes the distancer, using subtle cues to control when connection happens. If one person expresses vulnerability, the other might respond with strategic silence, knowing it increases their emotional leverage. A simple disagreement about plans turns into a power struggle about who gets to decide the direction of the relationship. And the more these patterns repeat, the more each partner feels misunderstood, unseen, or emotionally unsafe. But instead of discussing this openly, both partners double down on the codes they already know, hoping the other person will eventually decode what they need. The breaking point often comes when these intimacy codes stop creating influence and start creating confusion. A partner who once responded to silence with closeness now withdraws completely. A partner who once chased after emotional distance eventually stops trying. The coded signals, once effective, begin to misfire. One person thinks, if I pull back, they'll come toward me. But instead the other person thinks, they're pulling away, so maybe I should too. These misunderstandings accumulate until the emotional connection becomes cloudy. Eventually, partners aren't fighting about the real issue, they're fighting about misinterpreted signals that neither of them ever intended to send. And in many relationships, this is where emotional intimacy quietly collapses. The consequences of these hidden intimacy codes can be severe. Partners start feeling anxious even when nothing is wrong. Small disagreements feel like big threats. Expressions of affection feel transactional instead of genuine. Over time, emotional intimacy becomes inconsistent, and connection becomes a negotiation. Partners begin keeping score, calculating who gives more, who holds more power, who cares more, and who cares less. Trust slowly erodes because no one knows what the other person really means anymore. And perhaps, worst of all, partners begin to feel lonely even while lying next to someone they love. Attempts to fix these problems often fail because people address the symptoms, not the codes beneath them. Couples promise to communicate better but still rely on the same emotional shortcuts. One partner tries to be more affectionate, but the other interprets it as manipulation. Someone tries giving space, but the partner sees it as punishment. Even therapy doesn't help when partners bring their codes into the sessions. They speak politely, but hide their real fears. They express frustration, but not vulnerability. They wait for the therapist to decode their signals instead of speaking honestly. Without realizing it, they use the same coded strategies that caused the problems in the first place. Modern relationship dynamics have only made these codes more complex. Research shows that partners today rely heavily on indirect communication, especially through texting and social media, where tone is impossible to read and emotional signals are easy to misinterpret. Studies revealed that nearly 70% of couples report confusion caused by vague or mixed messages. Digital communication creates new intimacy codes. Delayed replies, short messages, selective social media engagement, and silent treatment disguised as being busy. Patterns of manipulation that once took days now unfold in minutes. Misunderstandings multiply faster. Emotional distance grows quicker, and the cycle of coded communication becomes harder to break. These intimacy codes repeat across generations and relationships because the patterns feel familiar. People often choose partners who activate the same emotional instincts they learned in childhood. Anxious partners interpret distance as rejection. Avoidant partners interpret closeness as threat. Each behavior reinforces the other. These cycles aren't caused by bad intentions, they caused by unspoken codes that neither person fully understands. And until someone breaks the cycle consciously, the same patterns continue again and again, no matter how much love is present. In the end, the secret intimacy codes partners use to gain advantage aren't actually about advantage, they about fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of giving more than you receive. And when fear runs a relationship, love gets expressed indirectly, cautiously, and inconsistently. The only real way to break the cycle is through awareness. There are 3 powerful takeaways every couple should remember. First, intimacy cannot survive secrecy, even emotional secrecy. Unspoken codes create confusion, not closeness. So the healthiest relationships speak feelings directly, even when they are unconscious. Second, patterns repeat until someone consciously interrupts them. If you recognize that you or your partner rely on silent treatments, strategic distance, or coded signals, break the pattern with clarity rather than reacting with another code. Emotional safety is the foundation of real connection. When partners feel safe to express themselves without fear of backlash, the need for hidden strategies dissolves naturally. Relationships are fragile not because love is weak, but because trust is delicate. One misinterpreted signal can create a chain reaction of doubt, and one unresolved fear can distort months of connection. But awareness has the power to transform any relationship. When you understand the hidden codes at play, you stop reacting blindly and start building consciously. And if you found this explanation, stay connected with this channel, because the more you understand the psychology behind love, the more power you have to build relationships that last.